So it's 2022 and you're on the market for a Glock action pistol. And the market's got lots of Glock clones now, and Bul Armory, which is known for their 1911 pattern and 2011 style guns, is now putting out striker guns that take Glock parts and magazines. So today we look at the top of their range, the Bul Axe Tomahawk. Are you ready? Stand by. Welcome back to the Humble Marksman channel, the only gun channel on YouTube dripping with that BDE. That's right, Big Dad Energy. Here's one that my 11-year-old recently told me. Why did the bullet lose his job? He was fired. Yeah. It's okay, I laughed too. I'm David, and this is the Bul Armory Tomahawk. Since the patents lifted on the Glock design, there have been a flood of clones that have come into the market, and this is Bul's entry into that arena. It is a lightweight striker fire gun that takes all the parts that you probably already have kicking around in your parts bin. The sell price of the gun seems to vary, but I saw it on Bud's Guns selling for about $833, and as I'm filming this, the Glock Gen 5 17 MOS pistol would sell for $630. So we're trying to figure out whether the Bul Tomahawk provides enough value to kind of bridge that gap. Now, full disclosure, I compete with Bul guns. I really like their hammer-fired guns and their offerings. So I'll talk about everything I see on this gun, and hopefully you can make up your own mind about it. There are some negatives that I'll touch on at the end, but let's kind of explore what's going on with the gun. So first and foremost, the frame is pretty great. As a 2011, 1911 shooter, the index of the gun is absolutely natural for me. It doesn't have the like super pronounced Glock grip angle. It is a more natural 1911 style angle. I have no problem finding the dot, and I haven't practiced with this gun a whole heck of a lot. The actual frame itself is polymer. It has very aggressive checkering on the back strap and the front strap of the pistol, which is how you control recoil. Is a good front to back squeeze. However, there is no opportunity for your support hand to really gain traction because the side panels of the gun for kind of concealed carry bits are not that aggressive. But the trigger guard has a very relieved cut, and the sculpt of the grip tang is such that you absolutely will not get slide bite, and it feels like the gun is planted in your hand really well. Coming forward on the frame, it does have the accelerator cut, so if you're doing like the super exaggerated Glock grip and you like to put your thumb on those pads and try to leverage down on it, that is available to you. One thing about the grip before we get off of it is it has kind of an integral mag weld that makes it very, very easy to reload, but you notice that there's not the little hollow bit right there where you bolt on the back strap. The gun is basically optimized for, I've got kind of LXL type hands, and it's pretty good for me. The trigger reach is absolutely fantastic. Moving on to the trigger is a flat face trigger, and it actually comes tuned from the factory. It is an aluminum anodized trigger shoe with a red trigger safety kind of dingus, and the trigger pull weight has been improved to just under about 4 pounds on this gun. And the character of the trigger, I'll just see if I can show that to you there, but it has about 90 degrees. When you start loading up the trigger, you find yourself on the wall, you pull through it, and that's when the firing pin block lifts, gets out of the way. Now we're actually on the wall, and then just a little bit more pressure and almost no over travel. Now, the no over travel bit is important. Come back to that in a bit. So the trigger out of the box is very good as far as Glock triggers are concerned, but if you compare it to like your Bul 1911 or something like that, it's not in the same game, but most strikers aren't. Moving up to the slide work is absolutely nuts, and we'll start with just kind of the fancy bits on the slide that really kind of provide value. So first and foremost, the barrel, I guess that's part of the slide, is a spiral fluted barrel, which looks really, really cool, and underneath it is a full-length steel guide rod that is captured with a single spring. You can change out the spring weights to whatever your desired spring rate is. One thing I really like about the pistol is the cocking serrations. Both the cocking serrations at the front and the rear are highly usable. They bite your skin, so I like to manipulate from the front, and that's not a problem for me at all. I quite like how they have these things set up. Moving to the back of the slide, it is milled natively for an RMR footprint type sight, and it comes with these little posts that come up into the optic body, so you have to use those kind of thin diameter screws. So we'll take special screws to mount your optic on here, and Bul can help you out in that regard. Just send them an email. This is the Bul MS3. It is the RMR clone optic, still kind of testing it out, seeing what I think of the thing, but worked just fine. And honestly, through zeroing the optic, I appreciated the barrel because the barrel is lights out accurate. It's the combination of kind of that good frame and good trigger and a well-made barrel, and I was getting very, very very small clover leafs when I was getting the optic zeroed. I didn't like sit back and do any like bench rest testing like you guys like to fall asleep to, but in my casual shooting of the gun, I did observe it to be very accurate. Shooting the gun is like shooting a Glock. I mean, it's a lightweight gun with chambered in 9mm, so it's a little bit jumpy, but it is kind of a low bore axis gun, so it returns real fast due to the good ergonomics of the frame and how it's shaped. It's not like redefining the segment or anything, but it was very easy to control when shooting rapidly. The gun comes with a really nice range bag. Now, the plastic cases that a lot of guns come with, I detest those because they take up space in a closet or your attic or wherever you have to store the darn things. But the collapsible kind of nylon range bags that you can actually, like, you know, collapse the bottom of your closet and get out when you want to bring the guns to the range, take them out of the safe. I really like those, and they give you a really good one. In that awesome range bag comes 3 Bul style Glock magazines. They look just like regular Glock mags, but the followers is kind of like pinky orange kind of color. They're not Glock mags, but they kind of are that way, and they've got ears on them so you can rip them out of the grip of the gun should there be a jam. So the magazines were pretty nice, if I have to say. And Bul is kind of famously known for providing really cool stickers with the gun, and this is no exception. It comes with some really cool stickers. All in all, I actually quite like the gun and how it's set up. Now, as discussed, there were some negatives. This pistol actually did have to go back to the factory. As I showed you just how absurdly short the trigger reset was, when the gun first arrived, the trigger was so aggressively set up that I could induce bump fires accidentally. Where I would get like 2 shots. And to the gun's credit and my recoil controls credit, I was keeping the shots on target, but I contacted Bul. I was like, hey, I think I've got an issue here. They sent me a label the very next day, sent it back, and within 2 weeks it was back to me and it was 100%. I've been taken it to the range a few times. This can happen to anybody, and Bul's customer service does seem to be on point. While the guns are made in Israel, their home base out of America is down in Miami, and they did a fine job in turning it around and getting back to me. So high marks. Good stuff to see there. The other negative that I'll talk about is the sights. Now, this is kind of like a no-win type situation because the sights are better than like Glock type sights. They are Glock pattern sights, but the Glock U-notch sight is kind of terrible. This is a traditional 3-dot sight, and I don't like 3-dot sights. So they're steel, they're well machined, they're crisp, they're well made. It's just, I don't like 3-dot sights. They don't co-witness with the optic either, which on optic ready guns, I feel like they kind of should. They're dangerously close to doing so. They just had to elevate it just a little bit more, just a little bit taller sights, but they don't quite make it. The other thing that I don't love, and I kind of already touched on it, is just the grip texture on the side of the pistol. I wish it was just a little bit more aggressive, but I realize that I live in kind of the minority of the people who kind of want that, because if they did that, then pretty much everybody else would complain about how aggressive it was and it hurt their hands and stuff like that. But I like really, really aggressive gripped guns, so I mean, I guess I'm the problem here. So all in, out of the box, I think the gun is pretty awesome. I prefer it to my Gen 5 Glocks. I mean, I've got a bunch of those. This is like good enough out of the box where you pick it up and you don't have to do a darn thing to the gun. It works great. The way the gun comes set up, I mean, you take it out of the box and it's ready to run. You don't have to screw with the trigger or anything like that. Like, they did a great job on doing it. Now, because we're entering sort of this age of the Glock clones, and one kind of caveat is while the gun does look like a Glock, like it looks like with where the pins are located and everything, that the gun should take all of the Glock parts. Because the grip angle is so different, there might be some geometry changes. I didn't bother taking it apart and looking at every little piece, but it fits Glock holsters and it takes Glock magazines, and that was honestly enough for me because you don't really need to mess with all the gun. Like, the gun is good enough. So that is the Bul Axe Tomahawk. If you've got questions, sound off in the comments below and we'll see if we can't get them answered for you. I appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks, guys.